And welcome to another edition of the Krueg Show. And Giants baseball is just around the corner. Opening day set for Friday. The Marlins coming to town to start things off. And let's talk a little baseball with our favorite, Marty Lurie, at Baseball Marty on Twitter. You can catch him everywhere. He's on the KMBR Morning Show today, chopping it up. And he's with us on the Krueg Show to do exactly the same, but better. Oh, better. What's up, Marty? How are you?
I'm doing great. I was out at the ballpark today, and that's it for the Cactus League. You know, it's all done, and the Giants tied the A's today 7-7. And we'll talk about the game if you want. But that's it for the Cactus League. And it really is interesting. You know, from a baseball sense, the trucks were out there today. The equipment was being loaded. The players' stuff was being put on the trucks. And this is the beauty of spring training because, you know, the citizens, the fans in cities in the north, they're freezing or raining or who knows what. And here come the trucks from, you know, the Grapefruit League or the Cactus League and the players. And then they leave these little stadiums. And all of a sudden, you're in a 3-deck stadium. And you're looking at that. And you realize 40,000 people are going to be looking at you, not 3,802. And it's really dramatic, the change for everybody. And I've said it before, Larry, over the years, you and I have talked about it. Once this season starts, these major league players, they flip the light switch. And it's a totally different vibe once it starts. Because down here is like Club Med. You know, it doesn't matter. You do what you want.
Right.
And the trucks are loaded up and everybody is coming north. And that's really the beginning of a baseball season. That's it.
Absolutely. How many years have you been covering? I won't just say the Giants, because how many years have you been in the Cactus League? How many years? What was the first year that you were there in Arizona for the majority of the Cactus League schedule? How far back?
I would say 97. 97 is when I started coming to the Cactus League and spending the whole time down here. And that's when I was putting shows together, This Day in Baseball History, and Bill Rigney and Bobby Valentine and, you know, all these different people that I would run into. And I was doing interviews constantly. So I'd say 97. But, you know, for me, honestly, I go back to exhibition baseball to 1959. And I was in Miami and I went up to, it was such a treat to go to Vero Beach. And we drove up to Vero Beach to see the Dodgers play. And they weren't playing that day. It was the Dodger rookies against the Washington Senators or something like that. And we went back the next year and I got to see the Dodgers play the Washington Senators with Killebrew and all those people.
Yeah.
Tommy Davis. I'm so sorry that he passed, you know, and Frank Howard and Ron Fairley. So my spring training experience goes back seriously to 1960. And Jim Cott pitched that day. I'll never forget it for the whatever the Senators or Twins, whatever they were then.
It is interesting how there was a while there, and I couldn't quote the years, but the Cactus League was on life support.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of talk that, you know, teams would rather train in in Florida, and the Grapefruit League started stealing teams away from the Cactus League. And then there was a pivot. And suddenly Arizona and the little municipalities there started investing probably in stadiums and started attracting some of the Grapefruit League teams who were playing spring training games in outdated facilities. And now the Cactus League, I would say, is probably the healthier of the two. And it seems like there's more teams that are now in Arizona, and they're teams that are sharing these beautiful facilities. I thought the Dodgers would never leave Dodger Town and Vero Beach. And they left there and they came to Arizona, and they're in Glendale now. And they've got a beautiful facility. And Ned Coletti's told me all about it. Giants have a brand new facility as well next to Scottsdale Stadium, a new practice facility. So what's your, you know, you're there year round, and I'm sure you read the articles about the kind of the machinations of how this all comes together, what it means financially. But am I recapping that correctly? Was Arizona on the the soon to be dead list and then got revived? How did it all happen?
Yeah, there was a point when the Angels were in Palm Springs and the Padres were in Yuma, and the Red Sox were here and the Orioles were here for a period of time. The Cubs have always been here. The Indians have always been here. I guess the Guardians and the
Tucson. They were in
Giants.
Tucson.
Yeah, the Giants have always been here as well. And then all of a sudden, expansion happened, and all of a sudden, we had more teams coming here. And then I think the weather became an issue in Florida. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Number one, weather is better in Arizona. Number two, the cities are closer together. You literally can go to a game in Goodyear in the afternoon and come back and go to a game in Tempe at night. I mean, that's how close the cities are. You can't do that in Florida. It's a 2-hour bus ride. The great story about Sandy Koufax, how he became the great pitcher. He was on a 2-hour bus ride from Vero Beach to Orlando. And Norm Sherry was the catcher and said on the bus ride, said, Sandy, why don't you just throw the ball down the middle and let's see what happens that way. And that's what it was. So the cities are close together. And I think you're right. They have put money into it. They have built facilities. The Native American tribes have done it for Salt River Field for the Rockies and the Diamondbacks. And it really is a place that's close. And it's got a lot of Midwest teams. It's got a lot of West Coast teams. And I think that's the issue. I think it's a closer, more relaxed way to have spring training.
Yeah. And the players prefer it. They prefer Arizona to Florida. You're a Miami guy. What is the weather like in March in the state of Florida? And the state of Florida is a huge state, so it probably changes in different parts. There's probably microclimates all over the place. But what's
humid.
What's it like in Florida?
Yeah, humid. Florida's always humid. It rains a lot, and you got to deal with that. And that's what Florida weather is. It's the tropics. And that's Florida weather. I mean, I went to so many spring training games in Florida. I would go to Miami Stadium to see the Orioles who trained in Miami Stadium. I've got pictures of Boog Powell when he was 19 or 20 years old. And, I loved it. And then I would do Plant City with the Reds and Lakeland with the Tigers and St. Petersburg with the Mets and the Cardinals and the Yankees. So I did the West Coast. So I've Bradenton with the Pirates. I love spring training. It's a great time at Pompano Beach. I remember in those days in the 70s, I sat in the bullpen with Gaylord Perry. The fans could do whatever they wanted. And it was such a way to bond back with the game of baseball. And now it's the same way, not quite the proximity, but the feeling of bonding back with the season and getting ready to go through it. It's a very innocent time, spring training. And I think we need it. In all the craziness of the world, we need that normalcy of the beauty of spring training.
If people haven't gone, you need to go. You need to go. First of all, if you're like me and you like to play a little golf, you love baseball. I mean, there's no better thing. You golf in the morning, maybe play 9, go catch the game. Maybe on an off day, you go play a round. There's all kinds of great golf courses all throughout Arizona. Desert golf's a lot of fun. You have a little dinner. They roll up the sidewalk at about 10:30 at night, so there's not a whole lot to do after midnight. But if you love, baseball and golf, man, March in Arizona is just glorious. One of my favorite stories from spring training is we wanted to go to a Giants game in Phoenix, and went to breakfast, and then rain was on the verge of hitting Phoenix, and it was a huge storm, and it was a split squad day, and so the game was rained out, even though the rain wasn't there yet. It was that kind of a storm. So the split squad was supposed to play the Padres in Yuma. And so Yuma is 35, 40 miles west to west.
It's a drive, believe
exactly.
Yeah.
And what happened was we got in our car and they said, the game in Yuma the rain's going to blow through. So, they're going to play in Yuma. And so we got in our convertible and we start driving west. And all of a sudden over this ridge, I see this black line. And I thought, there's no mountains in Arizona. It was a storm front. Yeah. And we went from 85 degrees, sunny, top down to quickly put the top up, hailstorm. The car was literally covered about a foot in hail. That was one of my favorite favorite days. We watched then we got to Yuma. It was beautiful. Watch this perfect Giants Padres game. Another time I was in Mesa sitting at Ho Cam, and I just happened to be sitting next to Harry Carey. And Harry Carey Marty, I'm kid you not, 9 innings of a constant parade of kids and people coming over. He signed autographs and had exchanges with the fans the entire 9 innings. And at the end of the game, in the 9th inning of the game, he looks at me. He's like, "Can I buy you a beer?" And I'm like, "Sure, but why?" He's like, "Because you've had all these kids rolling right over the top of you here, and I feel bad that you paid good money for these tickets." And I'm like, "You know what, Harry? Just sitting here with you and watching you, to have these exchanges with these Cub fans has been worth it." I go, "But if you want to buy me a beer, I'll gladly sit here and drink a beer with you." And we had a beer, sat there in the 9th inning, and it was glorious. So I love spring training, and I've been hooked ever since.
Yeah, for me, I met Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali would sit in the stands, and people come up to him. He signed stuff, but I was in the clubhouse with the A's that time, and he came in, and I talked to him, as best he could. He still had the Parkinson's, but I talked to him, and he signed a baseball, Muhammad Ali, and that was fabulous. Buck O'Neill, sitting with him in surprise, just talking baseball with him. It really is a special time.
It is.
It really is. It's a lot of fun to do it, and you see people like that all the time. When I was a kid and the trip to Vero Beach, I had Walter O'Malley. This is a true story.
Wow, the original owner of the Dodgers, right?
Yeah, I was sitting right. They didn't have dugouts; they have benches, basically in Vero Beach. There was no covered dugout. It was just a bench, and he was like in the first row behind the bench, and I was sitting behind him, and he said, "Hey, kid, go buy me a hot dog." And I ended up buying a hot dog for Walter O'Malley. And
what?
Yes, it's true.
He could have afforded to buy the entire hot dog stand.
I didn't have to pay for it. He probably gave me a couple of bucks to do it.
Oh, I got you.
And so being at the ballpark, it creates memories. It does. And going to Yuma, it's the 310 to Yuma. It's the movie all over again.
Right.
The thing about the desert, which is different than Florida, you get rain, it's trouble. The Marlins knew that. That's why they had to have a dome stadium. But here, it could rain like crazy. And then an hour later, the field is dry.
Yeah.
So you don't have weather issues here. You really don't.
No, it's March weather in Arizona is absolutely glorious. We have our first donation here. Our good buddies, the sons of Johnny LeMaster, have donated $4.99 for this question. He says, "Can we expect Marty on the patio this weekend on the leader?" You're going to be on the patio this weekend, Marty.
The answer is no.
No patio.
No patio this weekend. We haven't, really put that together yet. So, there's still some bugs to work out and logistics at the ballpark and all those kinds of things, the post-COVID stuff. So no patio this weekend, probably not until May if we do it. So it's okay. It's okay. I'll be up there at some point and go to the games and see everybody as well. But we're not going to be doing the shows live from the patio.
Sons of Johnny LeMaster, Bones, they used to call Johnny LeMaster. Thanks for the $4.99, and Marty will not be on the patio this weekend. You mentioned the Giants played the A's today. Giants finished the Cactus League portion of spring training with a record of 8 wins, 7 losses, 2 ties. How did they look today?
Well, today, Alex Wood pitched today.
Okay.
And everything was up. The only pitch he had today was a changeup that he got anybody out on. And Steven Duggar misplayed 2 balls in the outfield. He dropped the fly ball, which led to trouble.
That's rare.
He lost the ball in the sun. The sun is the toughest here. The sky's the toughest.
Yeah, high
and
sky.
He did one of those like this, and the ball fell about, 15 feet from him. And then Wood got hit pretty hard. But as I say, everything was up. The changeup was his best pitch today, and he got his work in. So that was it. Tyler Beatty got an inning in today and struck out a couple. We could talk about what's going to happen with him. He's out of options, and I think he's going to be on the team. I think when it's all said and done, I think he's going to be the extra pitcher on the team. Yastrzemski crushed a home run today. Boy, Larry, when he gets his pitch down and in or in the lower part of the plate,
he lets his hands go.
Yeah, but the good thing was no quad issues for him.
Good.
Crawford got hit on the hand. That worried me, one of the pitches.
I saw that, but he didn't come out.
No, he didn't. I said, get him out of there. Put ice on it and all that, but he didn't come out. He had a good day yesterday, too, which we can talk about. But Belt was the guy I wanted to see today. And he ended up the Cactus League 0 for 9.
Didn't play a lot, right? With the knee? He's got a knee problem?
3 games.
Yeah.
But as he said, on Sunday he was underwater. On Monday he was on the beach. And today I didn't get to talk to him, but Kapler said, well, maybe he'll be going for the Mai Tais today. But he actually, I thought I watched, and I thought he ran well. I did. And he didn't strike out today. He hit the ball today. Now, he didn't hit it with his usual line drives. His eye was pretty good, but he showed me, I think he can play. I didn't see any lingering knee injury that would knock him out today. And I looked at him pretty carefully today. So I think the best news out of today, honestly, is that Belt will be ready to go. And I firmly believe that. I didn't see anything, no limping. He ran out the fly balls that he hit very, very well. The biggest disappointment of today was La Stella. He was in the lineup this morning. And then Kapler came out and said, well, he's not in the lineup anymore. He's getting treatment on the Achilles. And look, this is Tuesday. Wow. The opener is Friday. And if he can't even DH today, what are you going to do with him? And my personal opinion is he's going on the IL, DL, whatever you want to call it. And it's 10 days in May. It's not 15. It's only 10. And I think for La Stella, I think he's going to start off on the DL, which puts Dubon on the team. Estrada, of course, I'll talk about him in a second. Luke Williams and Vossler could all be on the team because they could have, all these DL spots coming up. I got to watch batting practice this morning. And me, I like to exaggerate all the time. I get excited. you know that. And, Bill King always said, don't fall in love in March or September. It's spring training. But I watched Estrada today, Larry. Take BP. I'm telling you, the ball makes a different sound off his bat. This maybe he is the real deal.
He was a highly rated prospect in the Yankees farm system. He was a very highly rated prospect, like an elite guy, when he first came into their organization.
Yeah. I kid you not. I mean, I like the sound of the ballpark. What I'll do is close my eyes many times and just listen. And I'm telling you, the way that ball comes off the guy's bat, he's got legit power. Didn't he? I think he hit like 7 runs. Didn't he hit like 7 last year, something like that?
And he hits the ball with authority. He really does.
Not a fluke.
Got a lot of bat speed, a lot of strength in those wrists.
His bat speed was noticeable. And I thought that was pretty impressive this one. It's the first time, and I talked to him. I introduced myself to him, and he's a very polite young man and all that kind of stuff. And it was nice to see it because I really didn't get a feel for him. But I think La Stella goes on the DL, and I think Estrada is your double play combination with Crawford. And I asked Crawford today. I talked to Crawford a little bit.
Yeah.
And I said, what about Estrada at second base? He says he's fine. He's absolutely fine. Because Crawford and Panic with a perfect double play combination. That. They work together so many times. And Crawford gave Estrada the seal of approval. And Crawford will generally tell me, well, nah, he'll make some comment. But he was very clear on Estrada that Estrada is a good baseball player. Very clear.
They need him. Because he's a right-handed bat.
Come on, they have him in fourth now.
They had him fourth?
Oh. Well, in the spring training,
Wow.
And the other guy, I think
that's a little scary.
The other guy who I personally think will, when the light switch gets flipped, I think Peterson is going to have an impact. I really do. I think he's a guy. Show me the bright lights.
Yeah.
Don't.
He's a prime time player.
Yeah. Don't show me Camelback Mountain.
Right.
I've seen it. show me the bright lights and I'm ready to play. And I kind of had that feeling from him today. He was in there today. So hopefully there'll be good things with him.
Man, we got a lot to get to, but first, let's pay the bills and honor some of our sponsors here. Our first is Dan Coach and give Dan a call today, 925-628-9966, securemoney.com. And he's a great guy. We talked to him earlier this morning, and Dan can help keep your money secure. And, you know, what we're talking about right now, it's uncertain times for a lot of people. And with all that's going on in the world today, you want to put your money where it's safe for your retirement. And Dan's got a wealth of experience, 25 years of experience. He's born and bred, Bay Area native, big-time Giants fan, and he can help you get an immediate 10% premium bonus on your principal retirement account. Give him a call for an appointment today and make sure you're putting your money where it is secure. Once again, Dan Coachemilio, retirement planning specialist at securemoney.com, 925-628-9966. He is a Giants fan. He's a Warrior and Niner fan, and he's a retirement planning specialist. And really, when it comes down to it, if you're going to invest, you're going to put your money in somebody else's hands, you want to feel good about that person. Dan's a good guy. He's an honest guy, and he's going to do great things with your money. So Dan Coachemilio, securemoney.com. Once again, 925-628-9966. He is our sponsor. And our other sponsor is a brand new company called Telmetrics.co, not .com, .co. And Casey Bateman is our friend at Telmetrics, and they're a new sponsor. It's a company that's using computer vision to meaningfully extend the physical therapy clinic and enhance the capabilities of medical professionals to inspire positive outcomes. So Telmetrics provides a platform for outpatient rehab therapy services, both in clinical and telehealth environments, and the new technology will enhance and support rehab therapy professionals who specialize in improving muscular skeletal conditions. And if you're an orthopedic surgeon, an occupational therapist, a physical therapist, a chiropractor, using Telmetrics can improve your patient's experience and much more. So just as it says there on the screen, Telmetrics.co, not .com, Telmetrics.co. And thanks to Casey Bateman and all the good people at Telmetrics. All right, let's get into there's so many.
Can you see the picture behind me? Is it in the screen there if I get out of the way?
Yeah, what are we looking at?
I'm getting it's the catch.
The catch. Vic Wirtz,
yeah.
54 series.
I have it right in the room here. I like that.
Autographed by Willie?
No.
But you're tight with Willie. You probably should get that autographed.
I love Willie, and I haven't seen him in 2 years. It's you
guys were doing a lot of stuff through Tommy Bahama and some other things, weren't you?
He made me his personal interviewer.
And I would too. You're a freaking pro, and I'm Willie. I want the best.
It was the biggest honor I think I've ever had. When Willie, because very quick story. Did I ever tell you how Willie and I first kind of got together on this thing?
No, tell me.
So I'm sitting in the clubhouse. Willie Murph was there as well. Mike Murphy, the clubhouse guy.
Gotcha.
And Willie's sitting there every spring training. He would sit at a table, and people would come up to him, and I would sit with him. And I'm old enough where I know his career to some degree.
Sure, you watched it.
Yeah, and he loved talking about it. So he tested me one day. He said, "All right, give me the 1956 Cincinnati Reds." And I went, "Okay." Ted Kluszewski, Johnny Temple, Roy McMillan, Wally Post, Gus Bell, Frank Robinson, Ed Bailey catching. He says, "Yeah, but who played third?" I said, "Ray Jablonski." And all of a sudden I could see, there's that recognition that I see when I can see in the other guy's face that he knows that I know.
Right.
He knows I know it too. And Willie and I, from that day forward, we had a good relationship. And then when he got the Tommy Bahama gigs, he would sign a ball and take a picture with you. And then for an hour afterwards, in front of the whole audience, I would interview him. And of course, Willie, he's such a showman. And he's the best showman ever. And that's the way he was a baseball player. And he knew I was a former lawyer. And he would say, can't you ask a better question than that? You're a lawyer. In front of everybody. I'd say, all right. And how about the catch? You've been milking it for 60 years. You had it all the way, didn't you?
Right. So you told Monty Irvin, right?
Yeah. We would get into it all the time. And I love him. He's so special. He'll be 91, please, on May the 6th. I think he'll be 91 years old. But I had
such
a good time with him. I really tell you, he's a very special person. He's a very special person. And I hope that we can see more of him this year. I hope so.
It's funny. So many conversations with my father. My late father, I recall, and he always had a lot of words. As you could imagine. You see me, I'm constantly talking.
Oh, he's a lawyer, right?
He was a lawyer, worked in the San Francisco City Attorney's Office. But man, when Willie and the topic of Willie would come up, my dad he was suddenly like a 3 or 4 word guy. The best, simply the best. And that's what he would say. And he always would, emphasize it, the best. And Marty, to me, that hour that they show on NBC Sports Bay Area, Legends, it's called, and the hour of Willie Mays, every time it's on, I watch it start to finish.
I know.
And my favorite moment in that hour is our good buddy Ray Ratto, who works on 95.7 The Game. With Damon Bruce and Ray Ratto. I thought, Ray's such a wordsmith and such a great, guy painting pictures with words. And I thought his point on Willie was the best, which is probably why it's at the end of the hour. He said, Willie was the signature player of baseball's most talented era. Mm-hmm. And I think that is just so well put, and so well encapsulates kind of the enormity of Willie Mays. But the signature player in baseball's most talented era, he could do everything that everybody else could do, just a little bit better.
Well, he was the complete. He could do it all. There are some guys who hit with more power. Maybe some guys threw it a little bit better, had better base stealing statistics, but he had it all. He had it all. He was, and look, I've done 10,000 interviews and asked so many people who was the best. And I'm 98% say Willie Mays.
Yeah.
Really. And that's a true story.
Unbelievable.
Tommy Davis just passed. And the last time I saw him was sitting at the table with Willie. And that's how I got to meet Tommy Davis. And, Willie just was so generous with his time. He knew, look, like you, I had my own sponsors. You know that for my show. This has all been my whole thing for 26 years. I get the time. I sell the time. I'm like you, I'm the producer, director, I'm the guy that's on and everything. And Willie understood that. And if we had someone from Georgie Brothers would come down, and I'd take him on the field and Murph would say, bring him in. And Willie would get him a ball. He would sign a ball for him.
He got it. He understood
what I was going through and what I had to do. And he played ball and he did it. And, we go on and on about him, but I said to him, look, Willie, I was in Florida in the 60s. I didn't come to California until 1972. I said, I really didn't see much of you playing, maybe a World Series or an All-Star game. I said, were you any good? Could you play that? So that's the relationship we have. And it really
Willie, according to Jim Davenport, they knew at a young age, a very young age, maybe 14, 15, that he was on a different level. And he played with the Black Barons in Birmingham. And he was a kid. He was a kid.
High school.
They were adults.
We went on road trips with the Barons, and the teacher would say, all right, what city did you go to? And he'd have to give a report on that city. And you think about it. See, he came up in 1951. And, of course, he was signed in 50 by Eddie Montague's father.
Right.
But he had 4 or 5 years of serious minor league, major league, Negro League baseball behind him. So when he got to the big leagues, this wasn't a kid who was 20 years old and he said, gee, where's the locker room? And when he saw Warren Spahn pitch, he'd seen guys like this. He'd seen Satchel Paige.
But it was a different time as well, Marty, because he didn't have an entourage and he didn't
No.
have a handler. And when they called him up, and John Miller makes the point in the Legends piece that, Willie had to find his own way to the Polo Grounds and how you got there. And, you're talking about a kid, a young guy
Come on, he
who's
was in
lived his
South
life in Alabama. And now he's in New York City and he's got to kind of find his way. And he did it.
Yeah. That's why he played stickball on the street and why he bought the kids ice cream cones, because he felt comfortable doing that. When he got the call up to the big leagues, he was watching a movie. This is what he tells me. I guess it's true. He was watching a movie in South Dakota, and Leo DeRocher calls and looking for him, and the theater says, "Willie Mays, please come to the office." Right?
Right. Probably thought he was in trouble.
And Leo's on the other end. This is 1951. The Giants are struggling. And Leo says, "You're coming up. We're bringing you up." And he says, "I'm not ready. I'm not ready." And Leo says, "What are you hitting?" And Willie says, 477. He says, "You're ready."
You're ready.
You're ready. And then he went 0 for 12 and hit the home run off Spahn, then went another 0 for 12 after that.
Supposedly he cried in his locker to DeRocher that he wasn't ready and that he wasn't. And DeRocher reassured him and said, "Hey, as long as I'm here, you're playing center field."
Yeah. Herman Franks.
These are great stories.
Leo was in his office and Herman Franks says, "Hey, your kid is crying out there."
Right.
And Leo, who was, just such a perfect manager, really, he could handle everybody. And he was a veteran, that. The All-American out is what they used to call him when he played shortstop for the Cardinals. He couldn't really hit, but he was a guy on the field. And he went out to Willie and said, just what you said, Larry. He says, "I don't care what you hit. I don't care if you never get a hit. You're my center fielder." And the rest is history.
I love Eddie Montague, and his father, as you said, was the scout that signed Willie. Yeah. And I used to talk to Eddie about this all the time, but what was going through his dad's mind the first time he laid eyes on Willie Mays?
He went
and thought, imagine you're a scout, you're looking for that, and you're spending your whole life looking for that, and then there it appears. I would have loved to known what Eddie Montague's father thought when he first laid eyes on Willie Mays, and he thought, look at the talent, look at the athleticism. Truly, it's too bad he's not with us, because I would have loved to have interviewed him and talked to him about what he saw and what he thought at that point in history.
He went down to the Birmingham Black Barons to see Piper Davis, who was the manager, first baseman. That's who he was sent to see. And of course, then he saw Willie. And he wired Horace Stoneham, and Horace was his own general manager. Horace was hands-on in all the time that he owned the Giants. Horace ran the ball club. He did. And there's a whole story with him. I love the story. Stephen Trader, Treder, did that book last year, which was fabulous. So Eddie Montague Sr. calls Horace and said, "Listen, forget about Piper Davis. I found this other kid, and I want to sign him for $15,000, something like that." And that's what he did. He signed them the day he graduated high school. When he got his,
he missed his prom.
He had
to skip the prom.
He skipped the prom and the car and the whole thing, and the girl with the corsage, and he tells the whole story. And he split the money with his aunts and with his dad. And then I think he had a few $1,000s left over for him, which in those days was a lot of money.
Oh, sure.
And then he was off to Trenton, New Jersey, to play in that league. And then he'd go to Hagerstown in Maryland, and it was horrible.
The racist taunts.
Oh, horrible.
Yeah, awful.
And, he tells a story that, his teammates understood it. And what would happen, he'd have to stay in a separate hotel. And what they did was they would come to that hotel and climb in the window and stay with Willie, so Willie wouldn't be alone that night, and they'd leave as the sun came up. That's what his teammates did for him in Trenton.
It's always amazing, too, to me that Willie, despite the fact that he had experienced the racial taunts and all that, through many of those years, never carried that with him as far as bitterness. Never did. If he did, he buried it so deep that none of us saw it.
Yeah,
because he played the game with joy, kind of like a baseball version of Magic Johnson. you
Yeah,
know.
when he came to San Francisco, he couldn't get a house. Once they found out he was African American, all of a sudden, sorry, the house is not available. So it took a lot of doing to get him his house in Forest Hills or wherever it was in San Francisco that he lived. And but you're right. He didn't take that trauma onto the field,
No,
and he didn't take it onto his personality. He
no,
felt he was a baseball player, and that's what he was going to do. And in later life, with his foundation and all the things he did for young people, which is still a core part of him, that's where it came out. But Willie was suspect of writers. He was suspect of a lot of people. He was no picnic to deal with.
sure,
And Bobby Bonds was no picnic to deal with. And of course, who came after that?
sure.
Barry. And that's what Barry got to see, was his father and Willie. So, Barry was no picnic to deal with either. But yeah, Willie never took it, and Roy Campanella wasn't very vocal. Jackie was. Jackie was vocal. Joe Black was vocal. But Willie just said, I'm a baseball player and I'm here to play ball. And that
Yeah.
was what he did.
Great, a man of dignity too, tremendous dignity.
Yeah.
I thought that was the
Man of
that was
honor.
the point Lasorda made, I think, in talking about him. He's like, incredible person, but man, the dignity.
Well, I said, he was up like, I don't know, 14,000 times, and he got hit 100 times and 14,000 at bats. And I said, how did you not get hit? He said, I got out of the way. When I saw that ball coming in,
Drysdale would headhunt him every game.
Come on, they knocked him down every game. Every game.
Willie Barbie would have been the home run king, right, Marty?
And there's a warrant for your arrest.
Right, exactly.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
He got knocked down every single day. Knocked down. And you look it up, in 12, 14 years, 154 game season and 162, the guy missed like 12 games in 12 years. And that's the kind of player he was. He was fabulous. Fabulous.
If he didn't lose 2 years, almost two years plus, I think, to the military,
52 and 53, and he came back in 54,
and he had an incredible year
in the military, and he played baseball in the military. And
but those are prime years, Marty. He could have been the home run king. It could have been him and not Aaron who broke Ruth's record. Really,
he was 660, and he probably could have had another 60 home runs easily in those times, because he was that kind of player. Look, he came back. He hadn't played for 2 years, came back in 54 and led the league in hitting.
Right.
And the Giants swept the World Series with Willie leading the way. And, I've told you a story about the batting title, didn't I? With Don Mueller and Duke Snyder.
No.
Oh, yeah. It's the last day of the season, and they're all bunched up to see who's going to win the batting title. And Leo says, you're going to win it. Says, all right. So he goes out, and, Willie goes 2 for 4. Snyder goes 0 for 4, and Don Mueller goes 0 for 4. Willie never took to Don Mueller because he couldn't really play defense, and he was sort of a slap hitter. And he would say to Don Mueller, look, you stay on the right field line. Monty, you stay on the left field line. Let me take everything else. And that's the way he would deal with, with the outfielders. So he goes out and he wins the batting title, by a couple of points. And Leo comes up to him after the game, and in an envelope, he hands him $1,500. And Willie says, what's this? Leo says, I bet $3,000 you'd win the batting title. And he gave him the money. And that you couldn't say that in those days, but
sure.
That's a true story. And then that night, where does Willie go? To the Ed Sullivan Show, which was, when you did something big in New York, and Sunday night at 8:00, Ed Sullivan, was the huge show. Willie was on Ed Sullivan that night. What a time for Larry, he's 23 years old at that point. How about that?
It was such a different time that, there's footage now. If a left fielder, gets taken out on a double switch, if he gets back to the dugout and he forgot to hand the little cheat sheet card to the replacement left fielder, he probably would run back out there and hand it to him. There's video footage of Willie positioning outfielders and infielders with his glove. He's like, you move up, you go back, you go.
Alvin Dark will tell you that Willie was the guy who said what pitch to throw and where people were going to play.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, he ran that team.
He was the analytics department.
Yeah, he ran that team with Jim Ray Hart. He was good to Jim Ray Hart, and who had the drinking issue. And Willie would say, "All right, here's the bottle. You can have this once a week. That's it." And Jim Ray Hart had some fabulous seasons, but Willie took care of people. He really did. He took care of people, and I love him. And the moments that I've had with him in Palm Springs, I tell you, when he cried in Palm Springs, did I ever tell you that?
No.
Oh, we're doing a show at Barbara Sinatra's foundation.
Okay.
Al Rosen was there, and a lot of
former Giant general manager, great third baseman with the Cleveland Indians back in the day.
Yeah, 1,000 people, and we're doing our thing. After the lunch, I'm interviewing him again, and I asked him. I just said, "Willie, how would you like to be remembered?" And all of a sudden, he started to cry. He's crying. And he says, "I just want to be remembered by the fans that I gave them a good performance every time they saw me. And I did it all for the fans." And the tears are coming, now I'm standing there. What am I going to do? So, I gave him a paper towel or a tissue and all that. But in front of all those people, he just broke down and said, "I love the fans. I came to play for you guys." And that's what he said. It was touching.
Didn't DiMaggio have a similar statement? And the two played in the 51 series head to head.
Right.
Wasn't the Yankees? That was DiMaggio's final World Series and Willie's first.
Yeah.
They had the overlap.
When Mickey twisted his knee in that one.
We've gone so long on Willie Mays, but I mean, I don't
Who cares?
I don't care. I mean, this is Willie Mays. This stuff, this little sit down has been absolutely awesome. Let's get to a couple other things, because we got a lot of people here who want to hear about the current club.
Okay.
You've watched a month of spring training. It's not been a real month, but you've seen the Giants down there. What do you view as your number one concern for the club coming into Friday and opening day, Marty?
Health. And that's the thing about
health of the pitching, health of the hitters.
Well, the health of the hitters.
Okay.
You got the third baseman's out.
Right.
The second baseman is out. The left fielder is out. The center fielder looks like he's okay. You got people out all over the place. So, and those are major parts. You don't have Posey, you don't have Bryant. And now all of a sudden you've lost your leadoff hitter in Wade against right-handed pitching. You've lost Longoria, who's your third baseman. And, and La Stella, why is La Stella important? I'll tell you why. With Wade, because the two of them have a great eye and they work the count. And you watch Giant games with La Stella, Wade, and then Posey coming up and Belt. Before you know it, the starting pitcher's at 28 pitches in the first inning.
They're grinders.
It's a huge advantage to the Giants. Huge. Yeah. Now you got, who's going to lead off? You got Belt hitting second. And I don't know you got Ruffin there, who's pretty good eye, and you got Crawford. But they're really missing that leadoff guy, that La Stella type hitter.
They're pretty thin. They're pretty thin in their position players.
That's the biggest problem. But look, it's 162. You can start off 14-10. You can start off 8-12. It doesn't matter, because this is truly the marathon. You got to get your head wrapped around that what's going to happen here is not going to happen what's in August. Not going to happen there. So I think health for me, at least coming into it, is the biggest issue. And then you hope the pitching holds up. I mean, DeSclafani, all these guys were hurt at some point, but the Giants handle it. It wouldn't surprise me to even see them go to an extra day of rest for some of these guys. The Brewers do it with Burns and Woodruff. They go on 5 days rest. It wouldn't shock me to see the Giants do that. So you hope Cobb is healthy. Rodon is an ace, and he's going to go in the second game.
How's his shoulder? Because he's had shoulder issues.
He's fine. I mean, I watched him pitch 96. He looks fine. Then the Wednesday game against the Padres. That's the day game it's game number 6.
Right.
Juan Minaya and Brandon Webb. In that
Logan Webb.
Oh, God, I did it again. I can't. That's my over-under on the year. How many times I'm going to say Logan Webb.
Yeah, that's gonna be a hell of a game, though. That is gonna be a hell of a
Maya
game.
and Logan Webb. And then you get Darvish going against Cobb on Tuesday. And then maybe this Nick Martinez or Snell on Monday
Wow, that's quite a staff Padres
against
have.
Wood. But here's it. But the Giants throw Logan Webb, then Rodon, and then DeSclafani. And then you say, all right, now you got to get into Nick Martinez and people like that. No, they got Wood coming next.
Yeah.
And then
they got a good rotation. Giants, I think,
great rotation.
I think the Giant rotation, they lost Gosman. I think it's better than what it was last year.
Well, it's deeper.
Yeah.
Because they had to have openers. Sammy Long was in there, Barragar, and, all these kind of people. But no, they don't. This is a whole different rotation. So keep them healthy. The rotation's strong. Bullpen looks strong. Rogers got knocked around down here, but Wotus told me, look, don't worry about it. The guy's velocity is where it should be. It's Arizona. Don't worry about it. So I'm not going to worry about it. They're very deep in the bullpen. The left-handed side.
They're stacked.
Come on, with McGee, Garcia, and Alvarez from the left side. Then you got Leone and Littell and Rogers. It's and Doval to close. Doval.
And they farmed out Kervin Castro. He's nasty. They got a bunch of guys.
Yeah, Jacob Junis,
and Castro.
Brebbia is probably on the team.
Yeah, pitched well down
there. And put Beatty on there too, because you can carry 28.
Well, they have to keep Beatty. He's out of options.
Well, they could try to sneak him through.
But he's not going to sneak through.
No, he's not.
No. Let me ask you, you mentioned the Padres.
Yeah.
There was an article earlier this week that the Padres were pursuing a trade for Brian Reynolds, the former Giant farmhand who's now coming off a great year in Pittsburgh. Today, there's a rumor that the Padres are after Jose Ramirez, that Preller is trying to make a deal for Ramirez. The Guardians have been trying to negotiate a long-term extension with Ramirez, but it sounds like the talks are going nowhere. They're on the verge of trading him. I did a little video that I put out on YouTube this afternoon on Ramirez. To me, I know the Giants have a mode and they've got prospects and they're building this up, but either one of those guys, Brian Reynolds or Jose Ramirez, those are the kinds of players that I would be. You want Hunter Bishop? Go ahead. You can have him. You want this guy? You can have him. I don't want to move Luciano. I don't want to move Matos. There's probably a couple other guys. Kyle Harrison, I'm not crazy about moving. There's like 3 or 4 guys I don't want to move. Other than those 3 guys, you can have them. And I'll take Jose Ramirez. I'll take Brian Reynolds. Yeah. What do you think? Do you think Farhan is, behind the scenes involved in any of this stuff as far as keeping an eye on these players, making an offer? Or do you think that they look at those guys as no way?
I think they look at those guys as mid-season acquisitions. I just have the feeling that, Farhan's, look at his history. His history is he goes for Luke Williams, and your favorite, Connor Joe, and people, people like that.
Michael Reed or whatever.
DeBone. And, he's always showing Estrada, that Tuckman. He's showing that he's the smartest guy in the room, which he probably is. But as far as going out and making that blockbuster trade, we love it. We'd love to see it. Boy, put Ramirez in at second base and, forget about him for 2 years, and the guy's an all-star. But it's not his MO. Now, midseason, when he really can evaluate it, that's a different story. And I don't think he'd hesitate to pull a trigger. He did with Bryant at the last minute. He went to 12:59 on the trade. Remember that on the trade deadline? They went to the last minute to get the best deal. But I think that's where it's going to come. I think it's going to come midseason.
Joey Bart, Farhan made it perfectly clear that, he didn't say it early, but after the Cactus League had progressed a little bit, he said, you know what, I wasn't going to bring in a veteran catcher to play in front of Joey Bart. So obviously they're going with Joey Bart. Yeah. And I saw, some video of the Giants kind of working with him as far as framing and how to catch certain pitches. And obviously they feel like they've got the staff to try to support him a little bit and improve his game, both at the plate and behind the dish. Well, what's he looked like this spring? He struggled last year. He didn't walk enough. He struck out too much. He seemed like he had some issues dealing with some of the pitchers. He got crossed up more than a few times. How's he look this spring? And are you confident in Bart as an everyday guy?
Well, until he does it, you can't be confident. But he's the second pick in the country. I think he's a very serious player this spring. I think he's hit with some power, but they just want him to concentrate on catching. And that's their deal. If he hits 260, 250, it's fine as long as he can catch. They're going to give him every chance to do it. I asked Kapler that this morning. You're going to Casale or Bart, what are you doing? Well, they're both regulars and, this and that. And, we assume Bart is going to take a regular slot and all that kind of stuff. So I think Bart's going to be their guy. I would hope he even starts opening day to catch Logan Webb. I really do. Right. I really do, because he needs that boost. Don't catch Casale opening day. Come on. It's opening day. There's 40,000 people there. Well, Joey Bart's going to sit on the bench and he's your guy? No. I don't care what happens in that game. He catches Logan Webb.
Yeah, he's as far as any difference in him offensively from a year ago to this year. I mean, how's he looked at the plate in the Cactus League? I saw him hit a titanic shot to right field against the Dodgers the other day.
Yep. Yeah, he's hit a couple of big home runs. He hasn't stood out.
How many home runs is he going to hit, if you had to guess? Because he didn't hit hardly for power at all when he came up.
Yeah, I would say I'm going to guess 10 to 15.
Okay.
I think he's in that range. Ultimately, as a player, he to me looks like a 25 home run player, but he's got to get it going. He's got to get the career going this year. But ultimately, I think he's a power. He will be 275, 280 with 25 once it gets going. I think he's got that in him. I do.
A couple questions from around the Cactus League that I think are kind of interesting. What is wrong with Cody Bellinger of the Dodgers? He hit 165 last year. He was great in the playoffs. He had the game winner against the Giants. But so far this spring, I was looking at his numbers the other day. He was hitting 148 with no home runs and 17 strikeouts. He has struck out in like 2/3 of his at-bats in Arizona. Any word from, what is going on with Bellinger in your mind?
Well, first of all, he's hitting 121 now.
Okay. So he's down to 121. He was at 148. He was rolling.
I think I mentioned this with you last week or the week before, whatever it was. I watched a Dodger game, and they said he had struck out, 14 of 19 at bats.
Right.
To start Monday is very, very vocal about him, and he was vocal about him last year. He just won't adjust his swing. He is trying to kill everything with that uppercut swing instead of trying to hit the ball where the ball is pitched. And I'll say it for the rest of my life. Duvall should have thrown this guy a high fastball.
Right.
I'll say it forever. And Posey kept calling that slider, and he hung it and gave this guy a chance to get the bat. Slider speed. He had that kind of bat. He could not catch up to a high fastball. He may be done. I was thinking about that today. I said, what would you do with him? Can you send him out? You can't play him. Guy's hitting 120 and he strikes out all the time. I think they've got an issue with him.
Wow, that's something. What do you make of their pen? Today they picked up Dellin Betances, the former Yankee reliever. They traded A.J. Pollock to the Chi Sox for Craig Kimbrell. What's your thought on LA's pen?
Well, they're worried about not having Jansen. They got Gatterall in there. They got Blake Trinan, who's, 1 year he's the best pitcher in baseball. The next year he can't get anybody out. And he's got a new pitch this year. Kimbrell for the Cubs. I talked to John Miller about this today. You take a look at his record with the Cubs. His earned run average was 0.37. The league had like 110 against him. And he went to the White Sox and they just lit him up. And he killed the White Sox in the playoffs. So the Dodgers sign him. He's not throwing 98. He's throwing 93. And he's hanging sliders right and left. And the Giants crushed him last week. And maybe the Dodgers see something here. But I'm not shocked they went after Betances. And I don't know why they jumped so fast at Kimbrel, because every indication to me is Kimbrel has lost a lot. And when he loses a lot and starts hanging that slider, good night.
Yeah, that was a surprise. What do you think of the Padres trading for Sean Manaea? What do you make of the A's and what they're going through?
Well, a couple of things. One, maybe the A's believe that they'd never win with this group. Maybe Chapman, Manaea, Bassett. Maybe they just would never win. But then I'd be deluding myself.
Right.
They just are kicking the fans in the teeth. They have a payroll of what, 30 million, whatever it is. It's ridiculous. They get 50 million from local TV money. 50. They get
their owner's a billionaire.
They get national money. Look, you could have 3 billion in a house, but it doesn't mean you have 3 billion in cash. They got cash. They've got revenue coming in. It may not be all from the attendance, but baseball has all this money coming. Nobody's going bankrupt here. This isn't the Seattle Pilots in 1969 that went bankrupt.
Right.
And Bud Selig came in and bought them and made them the Milwaukee Brewers. It's disgraceful. There's just no nice way to say it. Going into the season, they had a chance to contend, and they chose not to, and to get rid of everybody for players that are years away. And I think it's disgraceful.
Yeah, they didn't even get that much for Manaea. No. Evan Longoria had a right index finger injury.
Yes.
They're saying he's going to be out 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That's a long time for Longoria. What do you make there? And do you just plug in Wilmer Flores and away you go? How do you see third base?
Well, I think Flores gets a shot. Then you've got Vossler from the left side. You've got Luke Williams from the right side. And you've got, you'd hope you have La Stella in there at some point. Maybe he could play a little bit of third. But Flores is the guy. And 2 years, not this year, but last year, they worked this guy like crazy at third. Now, is he Brooks Robinson, Mike Schmidt? No, he's not.
Matt Chapman? No.
He's not. No, he is a guy who, when the ball's hit at him, it's like it explodes, and the guy, he like jumps. It's just something could always happen to throw to first and all that. But he's their guy. He's the guy until further notice. And maybe if La Stella comes back and Dubon is still here, Dubon could switch over to third. Maybe La Stella plays third. It's going to be a mix and match, but Flores is the guy. And when he needs days off, I would think Vossler probably becomes a left-handed, because Vossler can hit. And then Luke Williams, more or less, being the right-handed complement, you don't need him if you got Flores. I think they need a lefty for third base. And if Dubon's on the team, he could slide over there.
What about Luke Williams? They just acquired him from Philly. Yeah. What positions do you see him playing, and what'd you think of him so far?
Well, he had a big hit yesterday. Whoever was pitching for the A's yesterday, I forgot who it was, but they hung a pitch to him, and he did not miss it. I mean, he just crushed it to left field and drove in a couple of runs. I thought that was a big deal for him. He runs well. He looks like he can play, but can he hit? He's had 50 at bats, in the big leagues, whatever it is. So they love his versatility. But I think if you have Dubon on the team, you have Estrada on the team, maybe it's Williams or Vossler. But I think I'd rather have the left-handed hitter in Vossler who can play third. He played third today, and I thought he played nice third base today. So for Williams, if I had a guess, I'd say he gets optioned out. That's just a guess. Because who is he to kick someone else off the team? The guy, he's been a Giant for 4 days.
Right.
Where you're going to put him on and, all right, you're on the team, and Vossler, get out of here. I just don't see it happening.
But they just traded for him, so maybe, they I would imagine they traded for him for a reason. I guess we'll find out. Some of these ERAs of these starters look really good. Carlos Rodon, 1.35 ERA. Alex Cobb, Only pitched 158 innings over the last 3 years, but he's got a 1.23 ERA. DeSclafani was sharp yesterday. He's got a 0.73. Man, do these starters look as good as their numbers indicate?
For down here, yes, they do. Webb has been fine. He gave a couple of home runs to the Brewers. Wood got rocked today, but the ball was up. The changeup was excellent today. DeSclafani struck out 8 in 4 innings yesterday. And the A's team yesterday, I mean, believe me, it was a lower minor league team they put out there yesterday. So DeSclafani, did his job. Rodon is 96. He knows what he's doing. He's compact. And if, you just hope he's okay. He's fine. Cobb didn't impress me that much. I didn't see the big curve. I didn't see much, but he got his outs. But it was a little bit more of a struggle. This could have just been the last time I saw him, but he was so slow to the plate that they ran on him like crazy. I mean, you could time the guy with a sundial. Really, he was so slow. I assume that he was working on something, whatever. You can't be that slow to the plate, but the arm is there. The starting pitching and the pitching in general makes this ball club very dangerous because pitching, Larry, wins.
That's right. Pitching wins, but you got to hit.
Hit a little bit.
What about left-handed pitchers? To me, my primary concern for the Giants this year is just what's their offense going to look like against lefties? No Posey, no Solano, no Chris Bryant, no Longoria to start the year. I mean, it just seems like they're asking an awful lot out of guys like Austin Slater and Darren Ruff to really drive this thing as the right-handed hitters of note in this lineup. I don't know that those two guys are up to it. That would be my primary concern is, are they fodder this year offensively against left-handed pitching?
Well, you don't see as many lefties as righties. You know that.
Right.
So you see more righties. So that's one issue. But Estrada, Ruff, and Slater, they are going to count on to do some damage. There's no Longoria, Posey, or Bryant. So you're going to have to deal with that. And most of the outfielders are left-handed hitting, outfielders. Dubon, come on. I mean, you can't throw him in the mix and hope he's going to really do anything. So we said it all winter long. We said it all spring. You've said it on the show 50,000 times. They need a right-handed bat. And with Longoria out, they don't have that right-handed bat. And I think it's a problem.
And it's not Elliot Ramos, huh? I thought Ramos looked really lean and mean, but they obviously don't feel like confident that he's ready.
Well, you know what I said about him. When he hits 480 at AAA or 370, let me know. Because hitting 260 at AAA doesn't translate into hitting 320 in the big leagues.
No, that's 220.
Yeah, really. And that's the truth. There are formulas that predict this stuff. I want to see the guy, and I hope he does. He's a great talent and a hustling kid, and they love him. They signed him when he was just right out of high school. But Sacramento opens up tonight, and I'm anxious to see how he plays in Sacramento.
How about last year? The one thing about last year that makes me, I think it's interesting that Vegas has the Giants at 84.5.
Yeah.
Susan Slusser, the Giant beat writer, says this is a 90-win team. They won 107 last year. They did lose Posey, but is Posey worth 25 plus games in the standings? I don't know about that. I like Posey as much as the next guy, but that's an awful lot to attribute to one player. I think I'm more in the camp of Susan Slusser. I think they're a 90-win type team. More so, not for necessarily the roster that I'm looking at, but when I think of their relative wealth prospect-wise, how competitive Farhan is, how much money they actually have, the variety of moves they potentially could make at any point during the season. I just think there's too much. They've got too much wealth as an organization to not win 90. I think 90 is a good number. And so I like them over. I love them over 84.5.
Yeah, I would.
Where are you as far as a win total for the year?
Sure. I was asked. We did it last weekend on the show, and I think Kerry said 104, and I said, "Is that your fever?" But Bill picked 88, and So I took Bill picked 87 and I took 88 or 89, whatever it was. I was one away from him. So I'm in the high 80s where I am. And look, they beat Arizona 17 times last year.
Out of 19.
Arizona's a little bit better. I mean, they do have Melanson and Ian Kennedy, and they have Bumgarner, and, they do have some offense. So maybe they'll play him better. I don't know. Maybe the Giants will kill him again. They beat Colorado 15 times and just killed him in Colorado. That's not easy to do, but they did it. So, and the league is better. Notwithstanding, the Met pitching staff that's falling apart. Taijuan Walker today, he's complaining there's something wrong with him. Scherzer's hamstring. DeGrom's not going to pitch until July. So, where are the Mets going? The Marlins we're going to see this weekend. Their closer's out, Florio. And we'll see Alcantara, who's terrific, but he just never wins. Pablo Lopez and Rogers. So we'll see three good pitchers, but their offense is still suspect. But they can win some games because of their pitching. But you got to deal with Atlanta and Philly. And those two teams are pretty good. St. Louis and Milwaukee are pretty good. The Padres got the good pitching. The Dodgers are always trouble. So, last year, everything just fit perfectly. The mosaic pieces came in with a beautiful, beautiful picture. Beautiful. It's hard to do it again. Everything went right for the Giants last year. Look, they were very well prepared. They hit 240 home runs. They scored over half their runs on home runs. They come in with a target on their back this year. People are ready for them. So let's see what happens there. The league is a little better. I'm in the high 80s. I think that's reasonable. Assuming that the league is a little bit better and they're not quite as strong offensively.
Yeah, we see it the same way. You're right, though. 15-4 against the Rockies, 17-2 against the Diamondbacks. That's 136 win pace against those two
teams. And they
teams.
beat the Padres. I think they 11 times. I think against the Padres, and we know they beat the Dodgers 10 out of 19.
Wow. Yeah. This number jumped out at me. Giants last year, 31-17 in one-run games, while the Dodgers were 500 in one-run games. They went 24-24. Dodgers really struggled with that extra inning rule. And they, it really baffled them. I think at one point late in the year, they were like 0-8 or something like that in extra innings. But 24-24 in one-run games for them, 31-17 in one-run games for the Giants. That's always a difficult thing to predict how it's going to go. But I thought that was as revealing as almost any individual stat a year ago.
Well, I'll say the bullpen was terrific.
Yeah.
I mean, this bullpen, and you could look up all the lowest ERA, lowest walk percentage, lowest home runs. Their bullpen was outstanding. Outstanding. The nature of bullpens, they don't do the same thing every year.
Right.
That's why guys are in the bullpen, because they're not totally consistent. But they have guys who've been there before. And Latella's been there before. Leon has been there before. Garcia, Alvarez, McGee. Duvall is new. Brebbia has been there before. They have a good bullpen. So one-run games for me, with a bullpen like that, I think they'll still be trouble in a one-run game. I really do. Defensively, they played good defense. They had two Gold Glovers in Belt and Crawford. Longoria certainly, was capable when he played. The outfield was very good. Posey was a great catcher last year. So the one-run game thing for me is a little bit of luck. But when you have a bullpen that's a shutdown bullpen, and you give me a 4-3 lead in that ballpark, which, every ball is in a humidor now. So maybe the ball won't be flying around as much. Every team has got the humidor and they're trying to get the baseball so it doesn't fly. You give me a 3-2 lead with that bullpen and they can bring it home.
We'll finish with this, and then I want to hit the chat and get some of these comments. But what would you say is the talk of Giants camp, and what's been the talk of the Cactus League? Have you seen Seiya Suzuki for the Cubs? What are you hearing about Suzuki, or is there a team that's being talked about or a player that's being talked about a lot down there? And who's the story in Giants camp?
Well, in Giants camp, I would think it's probably the pitchers. I think that's the story. and then seeing, the progress of La Stella and Belt and, people like that. But it's the pitching that people talk about with the Giants, and it goes on every single day. It's been a very short spring training. I haven't seen Suzuki play. I know he hit a big home run the other day. I think the talk of the Cactus League is more Ohtani than
Shohei,
anybody.
huh?
Yeah, I think he is. He is the talk of. Is he going to pitch today? When is Ohtani going to pitch? And then, of course, if he pitches and DHs, when he's done pitching, they could leave him in as the DH, the Ohtani rule. I would say of all the teams, that's the one guy, the name that you hear most often. But for the Giants, pitching. It's just the word pitching is this story. Everybody's impressed because everybody wants to say, they'll never do it again. They'll never do it again. And then you realize that they can pitch with some veterans and a good bullpen, and they're going to be tough.
Couple interesting non-Giant related baseball things that caught my eye. All the Blue Jays players making their opening day roster are vaccinated, which may give them a home field advantage because unvaccinated players by current law are unable to travel to Canada to play immediately. Though vaccination rates are up, many players on other teams remain unvaxxed. Is that going to continue into the season? That seems like a very like a very pivotal, divide there between a Blue Jays team that is going to have a full roster, it looks like, and basically every team they play at home is not going to have a full roster. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, look, the Blue Jays are loaded. And, last year I kept picking the Blue Jays. I said, the Blue Jays are going to win the East, the Blue Jays. And then they just fell apart at the end. But, boy, they're loaded, with Gosman and Ryu and, people like that. And the hitting, holy cow, George Springer. But, yeah, and it's Canada. Look, Canada doesn't succumb to the pressures like we do in the United States. And Canada says, maybe they'll change their opinion in 2 months or 3 months. But their opinion is that, if you're coming into this country, you got to be vaccinated. And that's just the way we're not dealing with the United States here. We're dealing with another country that has some very strict rules. And it gives the Blue Jays an advantage. Who knows? We'll find out who's not vaccinated and who is.
Yeah, that's a very interesting angle. The other one I thought was kind of cool. Major League Baseball is expected to announce today the introduction of an on-field device that's meant to curtail sign stealing. PitchCom is a device that involves a pad with buttons worn on the wrist, and it allows a quick, covert communication between pitchers and catchers. I guess they're saying 5 players per team are going to be allowed to use it. Have you heard any talk at all about that? And what's your thought on that?
Yeah, well, it's still in the experimental stage. I mean, they're nuts about sign stealing with the runner on second. So the catcher's got this wristband, and he's got like 14 buttons for the pitches. Then he's got locations, and he's got about 81 different combinations. And he's got to press the button, and then in the pitcher's hat, it'll say fastball outside. Now, the shortstop's going to hear it. The second baseman's going to hear it. The pitcher's going to hear it. And the center fielder, I think, is going to hear it. I think those are the people who get to hear it. The runner might hear it. So they got to deal with that. And then if you shake the guy off, it's supposed to save time. What if you shake him off? Now you got to go to this again and come up with another pitch. And what if you press the wrong button?
Right.
I don't know. There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. And I don't know.
Times are changing.
They did it today. Casale and Wood did it today. Casale told me, Wood wanted to try it because he hadn't tried it yet. And they did it today. I don't know.
I gotta hear what the players say about it. They're the ones who play the game. They're the ones who know if it's an improvement or if it's a negative, and I'll defer to them. Yeah. Let's hit the chat line because everybody wants to jump in here. King Tones, all hail King Marty. Gotta throw that in there. Andrew writes, will Marty be visiting River Islands with Wotus?
Yes, we're absolutely planning to do that. The homes are 28 new homes last year were sold. Last month were sold. New neighborhoods and schools. Wo and I are going out there. And plus, we're going to go up to Yountville and do something at the Priest Ranch Wines in the tasting room, too.
Nice. So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
This one, King Tone says, Larry, remember you said they're going crazy on the patio when you and Gary were on the patio on the radio. Yes, I do remember that. That was my way of just getting fired up.
Miss Gary.
I do too.
I do.
King Tones. I miss Heritage Salvage's promo song. Bug will like that. Our buddy from Heritage Salvage.
Yeah. Well, did you get anything? You got something from Bud, didn't you?
Bug did an incredible walnut dining room table.
Yeah, I have it. I'm looking at it right here. It's like 12 feet long, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Unbelievable.
Did
you do a dining room table for you too?
Yeah, I'm looking right at it there. You know.
Yeah, I mean it's
right next to the desk he did for me.
It's one of the greatest pieces of furniture in our house.
He's terrific, and
he's the best.
I thought last year he didn't do individual spots, but I thought when I came on the air they did say Heritage Salvage. I thought they did, so maybe he'll be back.
Bug, we love you, brother, and good luck to everybody at Heritage Salvage. King Tones, you fine gentlemen seen Patrick Bailey ranked higher than Joey Bart on the prospect ratings. What do you think of Bailey? You've seen him a couple at bats, I'm sure, during this Cactus League. What do you think of him?
He's got a ways to go. Genovese is going to catch a AAA. Auerbach is going to catch in Richmond. He caught today. And Bailey is going to be, I assume, at High A Eugene. He had trouble last year in High A. Then they sent him back to San Jose and he raked. Then they sent him back to High A and he was a little better. He needs to have a good year somewhere. And there's no rush because you got Bart here and you got Genovese, who I love. I think he's going to, hopefully he'll hit, but he's a AAA. So give Bailey a break. Let's see what he can do this year. He'll probably be in High A. And if he does anything, they'll move him up to AA.
Uncle Salty says, will Brett Auerbach, make the final roster? He's not going to make it, but wow, he's opened some eyes, huh?
Yeah, he won the Barney Nugent Award.
Did he?
Yeah,
Did he?
The player who was the best first-time camp player. First time in camp, he got the award. And Woe said this about 2 weeks ago. He said the guy's going to get the award, and they love him. And he caught today. No, I'm sorry, he did not catch today. He was in the game, I think, but he was warming up the pitcher today. How about that?
He's an athletic guy. I mean, there aren't too many people that I can think of that can play second, center, and behind the plate.
He's like that many. Nola's brother. Aaron Nola. He's got the brother for San Diego. Before he became a catcher, the guy was an All-American at LSU. He played so many positions to get to the big leagues. He had to become a catcher. And now he's a catcher for San Diego, and he had a fairly decent year. This kid, walk on at the University of Alabama.
Hit 388 final year in Tuscaloosa.
A walk on at Alabama. And he's made himself a nice career. They love him.
We got this one from King Tones. Viva, viva, Marty. We love you, Marty. You're beautiful.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm
the fans love you, Marty. They absolutely.
I can't wait to.
And they're coming through on the chat.
I can't wait to do this.
Andrew Thompson says Satchel Paige had a great story about facing Willie. Man, I would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah, and I have to recall it. But I think eventually Satchel just said, all right, kid, I think Willie got a hit off him. And Satchel said, that's it. And then it was boom, 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 goodbye. I think that's the Satchel Paige story.
Krueger's Crew says, Marty, you grew up during the golden era of New York baseball, a time period that's often highly romanticized. Do you feel that people have the same emotional and cultural attachment to baseball? I've always thought about that, what it would have been like to be sitting in New York City in 1951, 1952, and watching. You got Mays playing for the Giants in the Polo Grounds. You got Mantle patrolling center field in the Bronx, and you got Duke in Brooklyn playing center with the Dodgers, and he was an incredible player in his own right. Just a little bit beneath those guys, but definitely a great player. What was it like? What was New York City like in the early 50s?
Well, you had your baseball cards. You didn't have the NBA had double headers in Rochester and Hershey, Pennsylvania. The NBA was not a factor. until the overtime game with the Colts and the Giants in '58, the NFL really wasn't a factor. Although, the New York Giants were pretty good in the mid '50s. They beat the Bears. They wore sneakers on a frozen field. I'll never forget that. But baseball was the king. Baseball was the king because you listened to Red Barber, you listened to Vince Scully, you listened to Russ Hodges and Mel Allen. You had your baseball cards. You couldn't wait for the season to start. You watched the games on TV or the radio. And it was just, that was the number one thing in New York was baseball. And the rivalry, the Giants and the Dodgers was awesome. And the Yankees just kept beating everybody. The Yankees were like U.S. Steel in those days. That's what they used to say. And, the Dodgers or Giants would get into the World Series, and the Yankees would, win 5 straight. And that's just the way baseball was. But it was beautiful. And Horace Stoneham said, look, I'm thrilled that all the kids love baseball, and it's great. But how about your fathers? How come they don't come to the games? And that's, unfortunately, where the Polo Grounds was in Harlem was, it was a tough area, no parking. And Horace, couldn't make it. He was going somewhere. And O'Malley tried like crazy to get a new stadium for Brooklyn. He tried like crazy. But Robert Moses, who was the architect of all the Verrazano Bridge and all the streets and roads of New York City, said, "Nah, I'm not going to do that, Walter. If you want to go to Shea Stadium out in Queens, be my guest." And Walter said, "Well, it's like Eddie Arnold in Green Acres. Goodbye, city life." So the choice was, does he go to Queens or does he go to Hollywood? What would you do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an amazing move that they made, and obviously it opened up.
It was shocking.
Yeah.
I was gone already. I was in Miami.
Crying.
I was in Miami Beach already, but there are people who said they'd never go to another baseball game. You just can't take the Dodgers out of Brooklyn. You just can't do it, but they did it.
If you had to watch one game, would you rather go to in these stadiums that no longer exist? Yeah. You can go to the Polo Grounds and watch the Giants. You can go to Old Yankee and watch the Bombers, or you could go to Ebbets and watch the Dodgers. What's the best locale?
Well, I went to Ebbets Field, so that's a tough question. I was there, and I got.
And they said Ebbets was like a carnival.
Well, it was just they had the roving band. They had Hilda Chester with the cowbell. They had the Brooklyn Dodgers. You could see. I mean, they were just gods. They were gods to us to see them in their uniforms, and they had like the Giants have at Oracle. There's a passageway from the field to the clubhouse, and the fans could see them. And I would stand on that ramp and look down and see them in their uniform, and I couldn't believe it. So I loved Ebbets Field. But honestly, if I could take one game, I'd go to the Polo Grounds because I never went there. I've been to Yankee Stadium, and not the original, but the second. I've seen that. But I'd never been to the Polo Grounds, and I just like to take a look at it and see a game there and see Willie playing in center and see that short. Come on. In '54, Dusty Rhodes hit a home run to win Game 1 of the World Series.
Down the line.
It was a pop-up to right field. The second baseman went back, and he was against the wall trying to catch it. So I would have liked to see the game in the Polo Grounds. I think.
Couple last things off the chat, and then we'll let you go. Yeah. Andrew Thompson says, anyone out there getting DFA'd by other teams that the Giants might pick up? There's been a lot of speculation about that there may be a guy on a different roster that Farhan, and there's a couple different media people that cover the Giants that have kind of suggested that there may be a name or two from outside the organization that Farhan and Scott are targeting. You believe that? Yeah,
it could be. I mean, Justin Upton, that name came up.
I saw that name the other day.
The catching depth with Genovese, the only guy at AAA, God forbid, something happens to Bart or Casale, they probably need another catcher. Another AAA catcher. They need Mark Hill. They need someone like that. They need, Kurt Mammering. They need somebody who can catch a AAA with Genovese. I'd say if they had to make a move, that's where the move would be.
Marty, your thoughts? King Tone says, Marty, your thoughts on Julio Rodriguez? He is maybe the best prospect in the game.
Seattle.
He's coming north with Seattle. He made the opening day roster. He's obviously an incredible talent. Baseball America had him as, I believe, the top-rated prospect
Great.
in the sport. Did you see him? Oh, he was
No.
third.
Yeah, I thought it said 3 on the top 100 list, but I haven't seen him. Seattle's going to be better. They stole the
they've
guys
been
from the
active.
Reds.
Dipoto.
Yeah, they got the guys from the Reds. They got Robbie Ray.
Yeah, Cy Young Award winner.
Yeah, that's Verlander's going to pitch. For Houston, we get to see that again. The Angels have got to be. But Syndergaard pitched great. Did you see the game Syndergaard pitched against the Dodgers?
I did.
Yeah, 5 innings, 2 hits.
Yeah.
And that was the Dodger lineup.
Nice little pickup.
They had 40. The game in Anaheim had 44,000. They had 27,000 in Chavez Ravine. Tonight, Bobby Miller is going for the Dodgers. You know Bobby Miller? He was a Dodgers first-round pick a few years ago, the right-hander out of Louisville. He throws 100. And, he has a shot to make this team at some point this year. So their next starting pitcher in that chain of starting pitchers, Bobby Miller, he pitches tonight against the Angels. I hope it's on TV. I hope maybe I could watch it tonight.
Marty, will you be at Original Joe's this year?
Absolutely.
Joe Schmo is asking that question.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll do Mardi Gras in the middle of the season. And absolutely. Our first contest I did last week, and you had to guess the Giants' record for, the 162 game season, and you get dinner for 4. Dinner for 4 at Original Joe's.
Ooh, that's good. What's your favorite thing? What do you, when you go to Original Joe's? Because, first of all, I've been there many, many, many times. The Dugan family, great people. My parents used to go to Westlake Joe's because they lived out in the avenues. And I would say during the pandemic, I would say we probably got takeout at Westlake Joe's about 100 times over that period of time. I love the seafood pasta. But man, you can't go wrong there. Everything's pretty damn good. Do you have a favorite dish that you go with at Original Joe's? What do you go with? I bet you order something that's not on the menu. Well, you pull a George Krueger. I can see that.
I do that. You are exactly right. Eggplant is the big one for me.
There you go. That's a good old Italian dish.
They make me an outstanding chopped salad, but I have it with crab.
Nice.
With fresh crab.
Ooh.
And that's what I have. And the Chinese chicken salad is pretty good. But when I go, it's the eggplant and the calamari. And our dinners are terrific. I've invited you 50 times.
I know. The raviolis. I love the raviolis with the meat sauce is just crazy good.
Our dinners.
It's like grandma made it.
So we had close to 400 entries last weekend.
Wow.
400. Wow. People guessed the Giants record. So we'll see that. But every Sunday I do a contest. And it guess the score of the game, how many hits the Giants will get or something. And then Raph, breaks all the ties, and we pick one winner, and that winner goes into the pool. And at the end of the month, we pick someone out of 4 or 5 people who gets dinner for 2 at Original Joe's on us. And it's a full meal. It's the whole deal.
It's the best. That's the best. One of my very favorite places to go to dinner. Whether it be in North Beach or Westlake, both spots are awesome.
Well, and the thing in West Portal, the takeout is going great.
Yeah.
And they're going to do another one in down by Chestnut and that area down there in the marina.
John Dugan.
Yeah, he's the best.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
he's a hell of a basketball player, by the way.
We will absolutely be at Original Joe's. We'll do our Sunday contest, and the other one I've already done. As I said, 400 people. I thought that was pretty good.
Awesome. Well, the last comment on the board, I'll throw this one up there from Amitaj Chopra. Marty! Hey, man, it's baseball season. This is your time of year, man, and the people come out of the woodwork. I love driving. The great thing about California is you take the family on these day trips on the weekends, and you're always rolling back after the game, listening to you break it all down and take calls. And It's all great stuff, and it starts on Friday, my friend. We'll let you go. We went an hour and a half, almost exactly. Any final thought on your way out the door? Oh, here we go. D2 says half ravioli, half spaghetti. All right. Whatever floats your boat.
You're making me hungry. Come on, I'm getting hungry talking about this. I just feel that it gives us a sense of normalcy.
Yeah.
And we see this terror on TV every single night, a terror that it is so hard to fathom that this is going on in this world. And baseball gives us that respite, that day-to-day story. And, it's going to be 6 months. Here we are in April. We're going to be talking about this in August, and everything's going to look different in August in the baseball world. So it makes me happy. It gives me something to look forward to every day. It's another game, another story. And I just think it comes at the right time for us this year, especially after COVID and with the atrocities that we see every night. Baseball gives us a chance to enjoy it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the fact that the clubhouse will be open this year and people can go to the games and celebrate and get out and enjoy the fresh air and hopefully a winning ball club. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
It's going to be a good race. We'll see what the Dodgers do and the Padres. But, hey,
should be
3 with the Marlins, 3 with the Padres, the first 6. Here we go again. And just
bring it on. 2022. Andrew Thompson, Marty, thanks for coming on and talking to Larry. Right. Many more, please. Hey, we'll let you go. We love you. The fans love you. We wish you nothing but incredible success in 2022. Onward and upward, kick butt and have fun. And maybe we'll talk to you in a week.
Yeah, we will.